Dan and I up so well. So obviously, complete congratulations to them on that. We came into this year's draft 100% looking to bolster our defense, and it was going to be a very dominant, defensive-dominated draft, defensively dominated, and we obviously stayed on track. In the 4th round, we picked up at the 119th pick overall, as you all know, Mykal Walker from Fresno State. Added to our depth. I'll let Dan talk about the scheme fit for both he and Jaylinn. But Walker can run. He's a tough guy. He's got versatility to not only do some rushing for us, but also play inside linebacker. So for us to add him there, that adds to our depth in that defensive area at the linebacker spot and on special teams as well. 2nd, 4th round pick, Jaylinn Hawkins, 134th overall, Cal Berkeley guy. Another guy for us, high energy guy, fits into Dan's setting here in the mode. High passion football guy, flies around, very aggressive, very confident with his abilities, can play the pass well, runs well, good athletic ability, and again, versatility there. So to add their depth, not only in our secondary, but on the special teams as well. We like where we're going with Jaylinn. And then in the 7th round, came back. We were focused on a punter, and we thought that it was the best move for us to take Sterling Hofrichter from Syracuse. Really good athlete. He's got a big leg, and you watch how it pops off of his leg and his ability to hang it in the air. Again, he is deserving of being picked in the 7th round for sure, and we think he's gonna do a really good job for us into the future, given the fact that we are in need of definite punter competition. Q.
All right, hello everybody. It's good to see you. We went into the draft, with the feeling of how do we get better, and it certainly felt much bigger than that with all the countries facing. And as coaches heading into this, virtual draft, I think as creatures of habit, we were all a little nervous with the new format, but there was a side of us that was really excited to take this on too. I think you guys probably were too. For me, one of the highlights, not counting the football side, was how much fun it was to see the families. So for me, seeing families and wives and kids and dogs and being a part of it, seeing Thomas' son Mason on the other side sitting in the chair with him as a future assistant GM, those were really cool things for me personally. My wife Stacy being a part of her first draft. We've married 25 years this year, and so maybe this is a once in a ever chance, for kids and wives and families and dogs to be a part of that. And so I thought that was really cool because we all sacrifice a lot and we're away a lot, and so they don't know what the hell we do a lot of the time. What could you possibly still be talking about the draft, and so when Thomas and I have another conversation at 11 o'clock at night, a couple nights before the draft, and so having her be a part of that, I thought was really cool. So I know football doesn't make everything better, but for a few days, I hope it gave all the Falcons fans a reason to feel better, and hope we all got a little bit of a much needed break. So I know for me, and speak for Thomas too, we're definitely privileged to be a part of that. I thought that was just cool as hell. So now let's talk about this outstanding draft class. I think this is going to be one that we'll look back on based on who they are, and we won't know for a few years, but a number of these men have the right stuff, and there'll be some guys that we're signing right now as college free agents that are going to have an impact too. You'll see that. And so we're really excited, and I know we'll kick it off. So let's start off with the questions, but I felt it was appropriate to say that, how privileged I felt to be a part of this weekend, and especially having the families be a part of that. I thought that was it was really cool to see. And I know some of those people on the other side, so when you see other wives and families and kids, it was really cool to see.
All right. D-Led, go ahead and kick it off.
Yeah, Thomas, for first question for Thomas, with defense being the theme, what's your overall overview of the entire class, as you all are trying to add on to it?
Well, D, we got more athletic, we got faster, we got more explosive, and we honestly got more competitive and passionate about the game. And with the addition of these guys, and that's what we were aiming for, kicking it off. And I think we accomplished what we needed to do.
And a second question for Coach. Exactly how do the guys today make you all better? Walker and Hawkins in particular, and where can you use them at? They seem pretty positionless.
Well, I think number one, you found real competitive guys, and so Hawkins certainly is going to have an impact on the team just by his physicality, and I think that goes to all 4 downs that he's going to play. And so the physicality, the playmaking ability, the turnovers that he's created, that's been a big factor. And so adding another guy like that onto the defense, that's a big push. With Mykal, obviously the versatility, he's got the length to play outside as a Sam linebacker. And we'll feature him also at some of the will linebacker and, play over tight ends and do that based on his length. But you're always looking to have versatile players. And so I think it speaks to the scouting staff, Thomas and the coaches to, dig in and find some guys that are profile fits. And we have a really clear vision of how we can utilize those 2 guys.
Thank you, Coach.
You're welcome.
Vaughn?
Hey, Coach, going back to that theme of defense, I know there's a lot of time left before the start of the season, but how do you envision the defense right now as it's ready to compete in the NFC South? What do you see? What do you see that it's gotten so much better that you say, look at specific examples and say, hey, we can do this better. Hey, we can do this better. Obviously the pass rush, but just talk about those different scenarios.
Yeah, and I think it's the whole package, starting all the way back, into the winter and, adding a guy, like Fowler, on the first piece of it. And then you take the next step and you go through the draft. And so adding a guy, like AJ, who has outside stuff, and Marlon, who has inside stuff. And so one of the fun parts about that and some of these new guys meeting one another, they're all, an extension of each other. Marlon gets the push, AJ gets the interception, AJ locks him down, Marlon gets the sack. And so having guys who understand that connection, understand that extension of one another, that we all have to be accountable to each other. These are really impactful team guys. And so think about, Marlon and AJ, just where they've come from. They've been big time players since they were young, into college and crushed it there. And they're ready to take on the next challenge, and it'll be hard and fun, but they're made of the right stuff. And so to add Mykal and, Hawk into that group, we're excited. Where it all plays out, Vaughn, we got a lot of work to do for sure. And right now, what does that look like for the team? It's a lot of training, it's a lot of classroom work and, guys connecting as best we can. But, we can certainly make that promise that this will be a group that'll be ready to go and fight and battle and compete for it, once we get our opportunity to do that.
And my second question for you, Dan, is this. You talked about the connection that guys have. You talked last night about Hennessy having a connection maybe with Alex Mack.
Right.
Are you going to try to kind of influence a connection with AJ, with Ricardo, and with Marlon, with Grady Jarrett?
Yeah. I don't have to influence that one because those players, they already were some of the first people to say, "Give me his number."
Okay.
So I think that goes to what.
That is. Right.
Can you repeat that, Vaughn?
You just talk about how important that is for those guys to connect with you guys not being able to be on the field right now.
Yeah. Like for all of us, think about our first jobs, when we got out of college. And if there was somebody there that wanted to be personally responsible to help you develop and go for it, those are mentors. And so I think at times people can see mentor has to be 20 or 30 years older. That's not the case at all. Oftentimes it can be a teammate or somebody that's, just has gone through what you did and has some insight and vision for you. The competitors that AJ and Marlon are, they'll naturally gravitate to men like Ricardo and Grady and others because they want to know what worked. Why did that happen? And they'll ask those kind of questions. So having guys like that to lead from, I think all of us would benefit from that. If we went all the way back to our first jobs and who were the people that helped us get, to what we wanted to get done. These are the type of teammates that live here in this locker room. And I didn't have to force that, and I knew I wouldn't have to. So it's a pretty remarkable, state of brotherhood of when guys do that.
Thank you, Dan.
You're welcome.
All right, Jason Butt.
Hey, this question's for Dan. When it came to Sterling, what what led you to go ahead and want to take a punter in the 7th round? And also, obviously you guys cut Sam Irwin-Hill today. Was that a situation where you knew you were going to Sterling and therefore you had to make that move, or was there something, or did that create a spot where, obviously he had the visa issue before, so I didn't know if that was something that could have led to that as well.
Sure. I'll have Thomas follow up on that if you can. And we won't count that as 2 questions, so we'll allow that as so. Let's start first with Sterling. We knew we wanted, to have some competition there with Ryan of how we wanted to go about it from a punting side. Flipping the field, field position, he has a quick get off, Jason. He's got great hang time. So think about those 2 things. All right, here's a guy who can get the ball, out of his hand from snap to kick quickly, and then to be able to put the ball up and hang it. Those are factors, with field position. Just think of the good returners and why you want them and changing field position. So when there's chances for guys like Sterling who can really put the ball up and limit some of the momentum, let's face it, that comes with a big return that, creates field position for an offense or for a defense. And so having a guy like that come compete for it, that was really important for us. And we knew that was, one of the areas we wanted to go and talk about heading into the offseason. As far as the strategy and when to select, that goes with, with Thomas and his expertise. And, he certainly knows where and when. It's my role to help, what would he be for the team and how would we affect the culture and how would he affect some of the coaching decisions. And so that's how we try to balance one another. So I'll kick it over to Thomas, but we'll still throw you a second one, man. This is not a 2 question.
Hey, Jace, on the Sam Irwin-Hill thing, we had some delays in the documentation, but that's not what precipitated us taking a punter. We really felt there were 3 punters that were worthy of being drafted, and we thought it was going to be what was best for the organization to put together the complete team in our approach. So that's what it was. It wasn't necessarily because of the documentation. Okay,
cool. And the next one, you guys obviously didn't take a running back. So how this can go for Dan. How confident do you feel in the group you have there to where you felt like you could not take that position and just ride with the guys you got after adding Todd?
Yeah, I think, and I think in this time of year, you can forget about the word development, and like the progress Brian Hill's making. We're going to get Ito Smith back. We're going to develop with Quadri. And, oh, by the way, we added Todd too. So like there's a progression that you're hoping guys to make. And so we were actually really encouraged before Ito's injury of the progress that he was making. And so seeing guys like their development, Brian's development, Q's development, when you have a position like that and you're just wanting those guys to go fight for it and you really believe in them like we do, you want to give them the benefit of the doubt. And they're pushing, they're digging, they're grinding for it. And so you're always looking like you do at every position. That's part of the role. But we have a lot of belief in that group for sure.
Okay. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
All right. See you.
Charles Odom.
For Thomas, you opened talking about 100% wanting to bolster defense. How unusual is it for you in your history of drafting? Is it to enter a draft with that kind of focus on one side of the ball?
I think usually we have our mind on a number of different positions, as we did this year. I think because we were able to approach what we wanted to approach in free agency, Charles, we thought that 100% we could focus as much as possible, but for our offensive line position on the defense. So it's rare that it was that focused, but it was definitely where we were going in the draft, and we thought that's what was going to help, again, get us as close to being a complete team as we thought we could be.
For Dan, referring to Walker's versatility, you said he has the length to play Sam. You've got some positions in mind for other players you've talked about in this draft with versatility. Right. Is that where you think he needs to start?
Yeah, that's a good question. I would rather take a good look to see where he can fit best. But we also think there's a spot for him in the nickel defenses, Charles, when you go and play will linebacker. And so when we bring the nickel in, the Sam comes off, and then you transition to say, okay, is he best suited to be in a role that can add pass rush, or be in a role to play in zone and guard tight ends with that type of size and length? So we know we have a good vision for him that he can do some things at Sam. What we'd like to add to that and find out more is, all right, let's see where it looks like it will, and what would the third down role look like? What would his fourth down role look like? And so we'll try to find out as much of that as we can. But we do like the versatility. And when you have those chances, I think you want to give them those opportunities to show what a player can do. And then we want to create the role for them and then map it out, as clear as we can for the guys, especially into year one. You want to give a guy a clear role. Here's how you're going to help, contribute to the team year one. And especially this year, Charles. I think that's going to be really important for all teams, not just us.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Kelsey Conway.
Hey, I have two questions. I'll start with my question for Thomas. Was there a player that you picked, and it could be for all 3 days, that you were maybe surprised was still on your board at the time you picked, given, how you rank the players?
Yeah, I'd say Marlon Davidson probably. I think, that we were looking and we were honing in on that beginning of the second round there, thinking that it may be a place where those guys were going to be going. And we felt fortunate that we were there for him, definitely at that spot.
And then, Coach, for you, I read something that a number of the guys were either team captains or unit leaders on their college teams. Was that a theme that you and Thomas wanted to hit on in this draft process, getting guys with, more leadership qualities?
Well, I think, going back to, Thomas's, first part, regarding the style and the attitude of how we want to capture, a team's makeup. And so, not everybody is a team captain, but there is also ways, tell me about the style of leadership. One question you may ask a player is, do you think the player leadership on your team is a help or a hindrance? And right away, it's one of those questions you can ask someone and they'll have a pretty good idea of what type of player leader he is. Oh, they don't do that, or they don't do this, or yes, and here's why. And so those are things, even though you may be an underclassman coming out and may not be the vocal leader, but I think what can happen, Kels, is the competitor, the teammate, those are things that we're looking for as well. And so in this group of guys, all the way down through Sterling at the end, these are guys that impacted their teams in a really positive way. And that's what we expect.
Will McFadden.
Yeah, hey guys. First one for you, Thomas. And I think this is kind of the third time that I've asked you this, but it's the next logical step. At the end of the season presser, you mentioned that you guys had a plan going into this offseason. As the draft is now wrapped up, how do you feel about the way that you all executed that plan, and what's next, with CFAs and things like that?
So first, Will, I'd say back to starting off with free agency, and we had a real plan to make sure that we acquired some starters, 3 starters in particular, and then we could focus on the draft in the other areas. That was exactly how we had planned it out. And then again, focusing mainly on the defense, in the draft, and which we did. We like where we are there. We're in the process of doing all the college free agent signings, and you'd be amazed at, again, how great our personnel department did. I mean, we've already gotten 18 guys pretty well, agreed to signings. I mean, we just rocked that. That group is unbelievable how they did it. We couldn't start until the end of the draft, and it came together. So we're in a good spot that way. And then, Dan, obviously on Monday we'll start with the virtual stuff, right, Dan? I mean, with the new players as well.
Awesome. And then DQ, it feels like the first overhaul is a strong word, but transition defensively, maybe since 2016 when you brought in, that really strong rookie class. Having had a little distance, being in Atlanta in that time, were there any particular qualities or intangible qualities that you really wanted to have this group of defensive players bring to your team?
Well, I think, the first question that you asked was one that I thought was appropriate, what's next? And I think that's really the only thing that we control, what's next. And so having that mindset, before I answer your question, having that mindset of, how we're going to go attack this group and integrate them into the team, I think that ties into why. Because the toughness, the physicality, the speed, the playmaking ability, those were things and traits that we wanted to add, to the team this offseason. So I don't know what part I got cut off, but I think the theme I think you'd see here is this is a really unique group of guys, defensively adding, some versatile guys, corners and defensive tackles, linebackers, safeties into a defensive group that's really hungry to prove, how they want to play. And so I couldn't think of a better group for, 4 guys and their, college free agent teammates to join into than this one. So we're excited to get to work with them, Will, whenever that takes place. We're going to start, as soon as we're able to in these type of settings to make sure we're going to try and find any edge we can. And that's going to carry all the way through the season. If there's an edge to game, we're going to go for it. And we're going to try and do that with these guys because they're all going to have a role heading into this season. So we're going to do our part to get them there.
Awesome. Thanks, Coach. And congratulations on 25 years with Stacy.
Isn't that awesome? Yeah, she's still here. Not only did she come to the draft, she's here at her first press conference for the draft. So thanks, brother.
Easy.
All right, Kelly Price.
Hey, this can be for either of you guys, kind of parlays off of Will's question, but what about where you guys stand right now with the roster? Do you think it's going to put you guys over that 7-9 hump?
Go ahead, Dan.
Okay. Well, I think, obviously, heading into, each season, what I just said earlier with Will was what's next. What was is in the past, and what's next is that's why we've added this group through free agency, through the draft. All the the work that we're putting in now with the team to make sure we're all going to get our best. And so I'd say we added a lot, Kelly, to this team in a number of different spots. A little bit offensively, some through free agency, obviously with the tight end side and Dante and others. But through the draft, we added some youth here and some speed and some aggressiveness, and we're certainly going forward in that space. So we're really excited. I can't tell you how excited we are, but this is going to be an outstanding season. And having this group and this draft class, we can't wait to work with them, develop them, and help them have a significant role for the team this year. And those are the things that we'll talk with them about individually and carving out a role and what does that look like. So there's a lot to do, and we're obviously, you can tell we're chomping at the bit to get going, but we're very excited about the guys that we've added to this group.
And then I know we just had a little bit of a virtual glitch here, but now that the draft is over, can either of you speak to, did anything like that happen during the draft? Were you surprised at maybe how seamless it ended up being? What was kind of your feedback on that whole experience?
Kelly, no, we were really in a good spot. The only glitches were honestly what we've all done here. Every once in a while, you forget to unmute or mute. And Dan and I had a pact going, of course, with Arthur and Rich and the kids that were around, that we made sure that we checked each other. If someone wasn't muted, we were quick to jump in and remind each other that we need to mute. So it all otherwise went well. League, I was really proud with how things went. And Kenny Fiore and the group there, it was the best they could have done. And we talked about it. There were very few glitches. The only thing that was difficult was, of course, having cameras in our home basically through every minute of the draft. Just made you think a little bit more about a big brother situation for sure.
Yeah, I agree, Kelly. There was no, technology glitches that just took place. That actually happened, just happened now in our first team meeting last week. So I think you get used to it and you roll, and you keep moving and you find what's next. There's definitely probably a couple of, 4-letter select words that came through that, some of the kids on the calls heard. But I know some of their parents, so I'm pretty sure they've heard some words before. So it was, like I said earlier, to be a part of, this weekend with the NFL was a real privilege. And I thought one of the silver linings in it was seeing all the families and seeing that connection with everybody. I was really impressed with that. Some of the fun moments for us individually were getting on the calls. They always are, when you call a player, and Thomas is the first one to lead that off. And I think with Jaylinn today, when the call happened and after I got on, it sounded like there was a hell of a party going on in California, when the phone call came. And so that was really cool to hear it and be a part of it. And so every call is different, but it's life changing. And so to be a part of that and enjoy that experience with them, it's definitely one of the coolest parts about being a head coach that you don't get to experience as an assistant. And I never take it for granted.
Maria Martin.
Hey, this can be for either one of you. We've talked so much about the players that have already been drafted, but now that you guys turn a new leaf and you're looking forward to college free agency, what do you hope to accomplish in college free agency and maybe some position groups that you're targeting right now?
Well, I mean, like I said, we're 18 strong right now in commitments and getting all the deals signed and ready to go. We've covered the entire roster, so any parts of the roster that we can continued, to need depth, we had it all mapped out prior. Dan did a great job with that, of course. Giving us guidance on which position needed depth, and that's where we are. But it was definitely not just defense. I mean, it was offensively as well. Split down the middle. It was in the return area as well. So we feel like getting 18 players done like that right after the draft and free agency is really big. And we left a couple spots open, of course, but we definitely like where we are with that signing group.
Yeah, I think, Maria, going in, you have a plan for every guy. And so knowing there's going to be some of these players that are going to make the 53, and there's going to be others, that are going to make the practice squad. And hopefully if we really push it and work the development as best we can, there'll be some others that they don't make it here, whether on the 53 or on the practice squad. Our goal is to help them, make it somewhere else. And that happens too. And we take pride in that. So each of them, whether it's, a tight end, we've got a clear vision for how that's going to happen, as an undrafted free agent or a corner or any other position. So we're going to give them the same time. We're a developmental staff, and we're going to put all we can into, finding a role and a clear development, plan for each of those guys and take it as far as we can.
And this is also for both of you. You talked about, Thomas, if you have something, you can go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I'm sorry. I was just going to say, and remember, what's really interesting about this setting, you have X amount of dollars that the league mandates you can max out on to negotiate. It is a real negotiating thing. We get, of course, you get coaches involved, you get scouts involved. It's a really hectic time during that hour and a half or whenever it is after the draft. But it continues to change and adjust. Everyone approaches it in a different way. And you definitely have a certain amount of money to work with, but you have to be creative with how you do that.
And this one is for both of you. Coach, you talked earlier about how this has been really exciting for your families, for both of you. No pressure because your wife is in the room, but was there anything that was really memorable for either one of you that kind of stood out, or even something crazy that happened with your family during the draft?
Go ahead, Dan.
I'd say, what'd you say? Yeah. Stacy definitely helped with one of the picks. She wanted her, credit on that one. No, we, watching the iPad over the last couple of weeks, who are you looking at? And so when we picked one of those guys, after I've said it, from weeks before or days before, or, all right, I remember him. And so having just, a shared experience, for this has been fun. For her, seeing the process on game day behind the scenes, so to speak, and hear Thomas, start on the phone, with the prospect, and you're down to 2 picks away, and who are the 2 or 3 players that you're left to pick. So seeing that process behind the scenes, I thought for us, was really cool, and I was glad we were able to share it.
Yeah, and I mean, my son was the first time he was in the draft room, of course, at 12 years old, and he was helping me work the phones, which was great, as well as managing some of my player tags. So really, really fun to be able to do that. You don't get a chance to be around kids that often in a setting like this. There's no way he'd be able to dig in like he did here. So that was a memorable moment that I obviously will never forget.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Jacob Roth.
I'm actually good to go. Thank you, though.
Okay. Tanitra from 92.9.
Yeah, I think most of my questions have been answered as well. Guys have already given their feedback on the success and the seamlessness of the virtual draft, as well as talking a little bit about the rationale for not necessarily going with the running back. But I did have one other question. You guys, either Coach or Thomas, can answer this. You talked about the theme of speed, of versatility. I want to add speed as well, because I know that's something that you guys obviously look for. No, the guys haven't taken the field in front of you quite yet, but when you at first glance kind of look at this draft class, especially in the 5 years that Coach has been drafting as a co-partner, if you will, with Thomas, would you say that on offense and defense, and even on special teams, that this is maybe the most versatile class that you've seen or had thus far?
I think for me, and I'll answer and I'll kick it over to Thomas, You're not trapping me like that. No chance. Every class is unique. It's like you can't say which kid's favorite. You know what I mean? Like, no, we ain't doing that. But
Good answer, Coach.
but I would say I love the connection with the players. It's so much fun, and so I can't wait to get to know these guys, connect with them. And one of the best things, about being a coach is you get to do hard things, with a team, with a group of guys. And so for all of these players, they're going to be a part of this 2020 team. It's going to be an excellent team to be a part of, and I can't wait to share it with them. But the relationships that you grow and help develop a player, it's really one of the most rewarding parts of coaching. So I look forward to building, relationships with each of them.
Good.
Thank you.
Dan Matthews, 680.
First one for DQ. Actually, before I get into my question, I'm just really curious. Where did you get that painting behind you?
I know it's Atlanta Skyline. Where did we get it? Online. We're going to go art.com. That's our final answer.
Awesome. All right, fair enough. It's pretty cool. Yeah, I'll have to check that out.
It is the Skyline.
Yeah, no, I'm a huge nerd for skylines. So with the two guys that you got in the fourth round today, you've talked a lot about how you value speed on special teams. I mean, is that an immediate fit for those guys to start off?
Yes, and I think what's kind of interesting, they already had roles on their team on special teams, and believe it or not, Marlon did as well. And so those are the guys that play on fourth downs. With Hawkins and his physical style, his ability to hit and run, like he really plays that way. And so what does that translate into? Big special teams play, changing of field positions, momentum on a big tackle and a kickoff. You know what that feels like when you see a tackle that's inside the 20-yard line and the defense takes the field. There's energy that's created, for the fans and for the team. And the same thing goes on, with Mykal. So having a guy, he's going to play on punt, he's going to play on, kickoff cover. Those are things as linebackers and safeties. When you have speed and versatility and length, that tends to help. And so there's some terrifically tough jobs, especially on kickoff return, like blocking guys in space. You can imagine just, even saying it out loud sounds hard, on kickoff return, but those are the type of athletes that you need to do those jobs. And we're looking forward to, developing in that space too.
And for Thomas, it seems like the theme defensively in the NFL is, do you get pressure and do you get the football back for your offense? I mean, do you feel like the guys that you added are going to be able to help you guys accomplish that goal?
I do. I think being able to get upfield, of course, we know that, with what Dan stresses in his defense. Combine that with, I think, a really growing and soon to be evolving secondary that's going to pair well with our pass rush. I think we're going to continue to improve there significantly.
Thank you both.
All right, you're welcome.
All right. Any follow-ups? Dealer, I don't see you on anymore. Jason, do you have any follow-ups?
Yeah, I actually do. Just want to take a shot here. Do either of you want to go ahead and give us some of those 18 names that you mentioned about the college free agents?
Well, I would have a hard time listing all 18 right now, even though I do have them somewhere close by.
3 or 4?
Suffice to say, we'll give you one. Is that all right? Can I give one, David?
If we sign them, yeah, go ahead.
Or do you want me to
Maybe
wait?
you say it's like, college, they've committed, maybe they haven't signed,
Yeah, how about
David, you know that.
We've agreed to terms. No, we've agreed to terms with 18, and I would prefer us to be able to put them all out at one time for you guys tomorrow. That'd be great.
Sure.
Took your shot. Nothing wrong with taking a shot.
Thank you, Jason. I appreciate it. I get it.
Vaughn, any follow-up?
Yes, I do. Dan, with the off-season workouts or whatever like that, you guys, you talked about doing the teaching and all that. Will you guys do any kind of a workout program? I saw some of the teams said, no, they're not going to do that. Any kind of like virtual workouts or anything. Is that something that you guys are not going to do?
Correct. Yeah, we'll do all of the classroom and teaching sessions for that, Vaughn, but not from a virtual workout, where we're putting a monitor, to check in on a player to that space. So obviously we have conversations, and the players, hopefully, over the next, weeks to come, we'll, have some workouts together, but that's not part of our off-season program together virtually.
And one more thing I want to clarify, and I know you were having fun with it. but which prospect did Stacy have her eye on? Which one was that?
All of them. She was here for
There
every
wasn't
pick.
one?
So, no, one. She was, I would say, she knew she had her eye on the defense. So she was excited for the guys we added. I think everybody, and I know you guys did too, enjoyed following Marlon, post draft, and from comments to, hearing them and being a part of it. So she certainly enjoyed reading and following him as well.
Thanks, man. Appreciate you.
All right, you got it.
All right. Any other follow-ups?
Yes, I'm back on.
Okay. Thought you wanted a cigar break.
Coach Dan, the virtual learning, the virtual learning. How do you stack that? I know in college we give them modules, deadlines, and then we check in. How will you have your virtual learning period stacked for the different groups and coaches and stuff?
Sure. I think it's a little bit of everything. There's a lot of customized teaching that goes on, one-on-one, or one-on-some, as I call it, maybe one or two or three. And so in this type of format where it's Microsoft Teams, we like to be, 3 or less. That way there's nobody that's not on camera and staying engaged. We share our screens to show video. We share our screens to do playbook diagrams. We also use other, platforms like Zoom, where if you had 6 or 8 people and you wanted to see everybody's face to have a discussion on things, we do that. We include voiceovers that, hey, I'll send you something tonight. These are the 3 things we'll talk about after you watch it that we can go through tomorrow. So we're just trying as many ways as we can to go through it. And then we go through a lot of feedback. We ask what the players benefited from, and we also do that as a staff. What worked well, what didn't, what can we do more of? And we're constantly trying to challenge the guys, but having a customized individual learning program, it's been, we're off to a good start on that. And there's nothing like being on the field. I would say one of my biggest concerns is that you don't get on the field together and have that type of communication. And there's no way to do that now, but it doesn't mean you're not going to dig in to try and find, a edge to find it. So it's been a fun start. Over the last month, I've learned a lot on technology. I love teaching. So finding new ways to connect with the guys, new exercises, new ways to do things. It's been a challenge, but one that's been fun.